Hello, everyone. Welcome back from Thanksgiving break. I hope you had a really enjoyable break and that you're rested. And welcome to the new trimester. We're now in trimester 2. So we are making progress through our 8th grade year. Before you know it, you're going to be in high school. I'm sorry I'm not in school today. I have jury duty, and by law, I have to show up. So Senora Charles and I believe Mrs. Polk is your substitute teacher today. So you should have already completed the warm up. The warm up you did not need to submit. I just want to clarify what your homework is. You should have written this down, and your agenda book should have been stamped as usual. You have practice number 4. Now, to help you with practice number 4, you should use the notes that are in today's folder. These notes look familiar. You've seen them before. So use these notes to help you complete this worksheet. And yes, you do need to submit the homework. It will be your first homework check for the new trimester. So for the remainder of the class, you are going to be put into groups and you are going to complete your first product grade for the new trimester, the second trimester. This will not be due today. We will be working on it for a couple of days. And yes, it is a group project. We'll talk about teammates and all that stuff later. This will be your first product grade for trimester 2. So what are you going to be doing? You will be designing your own food web for one particular location on Earth. It's a specific ecosystem or biome. So here's a food web. You've seen this one before, right? It shows all the different organisms, whether they are producers or everything else here is a consumer, right? Here's a producer, 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 or autotroph, autotroph, autotroph. And then every single organism is a consumer, and we can rank them as a primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and so forth. This is a food web that's missing decomposers, and it's not showing the sun. In the end of your project, you're going to design a food web for a particular location on Earth, a particular ecosystem or biome, and it will include decomposers and the sun. Today, we're just going to get started. Today is just doing research and deciding who are the organisms that you want to show in your food web. This food web here doesn't have penguins, and that should make sense because penguins are not found in the habitat that these animals are found. So that's why each team is going to get a unique habitat, biome, or ecosystem, and the organisms they pick will be unique for just their location on Earth, for the organisms that will be found in that ecosystem or in that biome. Okay, so ultimately, this is where we're going to end up. We are not drawing the food webs today. Today, we're going to get in groups. We're going to pick out of a hat randomly what is your biome or ecosystem. And then the rest of the class will be spent picking and deciding what organisms are you going to show in your food web. And these organisms have to be organisms that live in your biome or in your ecosystem. Okay, so Senora Charles is going to walk you through this. You'll do one step. You'll do it as a team. You have a time limit for each step. And then you will get back together. Senora Charles will give you directions for the next step. You'll get back into your teams. You'll get through that step. And you're going to get through the first 4 steps of this project today. The first is, actually this says step 1, but really step 1 is you're going to decide on your team. So everyone's going to be able to choose or pick their partners. You're going to be in teams of 3 to 4. Senora Charles will decide if a team works or if a team does not. So you're going to pick your partners wisely. Do not pick students that you don't get along with. Do not pick students that you are so good friends with that you would fool around the whole time and you would not be focused and on task. So you need to pick your partners wisely and say, is this a student that will hold me accountable? Is this a student that I can trust and they will be responsible? Is this a student where I know we can work well together and we can stay on task? Is this a student that if we don't finish in class this week and we need to finish at home on our own, will I be able to get together with them? Do I have their contact information? Will our parents be able to take us to each other's houses? Things like that. So choose your partners wisely. It's going to be teams of 3 to 4, but there are only 10 ecosystems or 10 biomes. So there's a maximum of 10 teams, and it's 3 to 4 people per team. Senora Charles will decide ultimately who can be on each team. Okay. Please remember, I'm not there today. If there are any students absent, you have to remember to include them as well. So, for example, if, Soyson is absent and I know that I get along with her, I want her to be a part of my team. When you give your teammate and your team names to Senora Charles, you'll say, I'm on this team, but so is Soyson. She's just not here today, but she's going to be on our team. Okay? Once the teams have been established, you will pick your biome or your ecosystem out of a hat, so randomly. So one team will draw a food web for ocean organisms, where another team is going to draw a food web for a tundra biome or ecosystem. Then another team may pick desert, and they will draw a food web with organisms that live in a desert biome or desert ecosystem. Okay, so that once you pick your biomes and your teams, and then your biome or ecosystem for your team, you will then work silently for step 1. You've got 12 to 15 minutes to go to the websites that I posted in today's folder so that you can learn more about your particular biome. So if your team picked desert, then you're going to just look at the 3 websites and click only on the desert links to learn what's the desert like? What's the weather conditions like in a desert? What is the habitat like? What are the land conditions like? What kinds of trees? What kind of land do you see there? Is there water? What type of water? What are the organisms that live there? So you're going to learn as much as possible about your biome or ecosystem silently and individually. Again, these 3 website resources are found in today's folder 1, 2, 3. You look at each one individually, and you don't have to go through the entire websites. Just go to your particular ecosystem or biome to learn about your biome and the organisms that live there. Then, when your teachers tell you, your next step will be to get with your team. You'll be working with your team collaboratively for the rest of the class. The first task here, you have 15 minutes for it, is for you to decide as a team what 10 organisms will you use to ultimately make the food web for your biome or ecosystem. Now, out of those 10 organisms, 2 of them must be plants, 1 of them must be a decomposer, and then the rest can be animals. Can you do more than 10? Yes, but at a minimum 10, 2 of which must be plants, 1 must be a decomposer, and the remainder can be animals. If you want 3 plants and only 6 animals, that's fine too. So just keep in mind what you need to have at a minimum. 10 organisms at a minimum, and 2 plants, 1 decomposer, and then the remainder can be animals. Remember, if you are a desert biome or ecosystem, you're not going to pick a penguin, right? This is why you needed to follow the previous slide where you had to learn about your biome so you know what types of organisms or animals live there. Next, your team will have about 25 minutes for this task because this one is going to be your research. Notice you're not making your food web yet today. You're just doing your background research. So now you are going to, as a team, once you've picked your 10 organisms, you are going to research what do they eat and what eats them. You can use any internet resource, but also the 3 websites that I gave you. You can use that to help you find those answers. And where are you going to record all this information? You're going to record it on paper. Today's handout, the substitute will give it to you. It's called the trophic feeding table. So when you get this handout, you're going to put your name and every other team member's name. You're going to write down the name of your biome. And then you can tell me What is the first plant you picked? The second plant you picked? What is your decomposer? And then what are the remaining animals? The last 5 rows are blank in case you want to add more than 10 organisms, but that is optional. So then what are you going to do? You're going to research, well, animal number 2, for example, what does it eat and what eats them? And it should be several organisms, right? It should not just be one thing that it eats. You want to research anything that it eats, multiple organisms, because that's how you're going to get your food web ultimately in the end. So again, this is going to take up a large chunk of your time. You may or may not get finished. And this piece of paper, by the way, you will turn back into your teacher at the end of the class. So you may or may not get this done. If you do get this done, then you can move on to your rough draft. In the back of the room, on the back supply table, there's plain white printer paper. That is where your team can go ahead and start to set up your rough draft. And then next class on Wednesday, when hopefully I'm back, I'm not in jury duty, we will pick up where we left off. Okay, this is the remainder of what we'll do to get us to design our poster and ultimately move this rough draft of our food web onto a good copy on big poster paper. Okay? So please make sure that you are on task with your group teammates. Choose your teammates wisely. And at the end of the class, you will need to turn in the handout and this handout, the trophic feeding table. And if you started your rough draft, you can turn that into the teacher as well. Thank you, and please make sure that you are focused, on task, and well behaved. Have a good day.